Hi all, welcome back. Now in this particular section we'll be looking at this particular use case which I specifically called as cross-browser testing, parallel test execution using Selenium Grid. Now this is one of the important chapters of our course. We'll be specifically looking how to perform cross-browser testing, do parallel test execution, why is Selenium Grid very popular in the market, and we will try to look at what are the disadvantages if we go without Docker and what are the advantages with the Docker, which are huge advantages. We'll be touched on points of the advantages, and we will try to conclude why to go with Docker specifically with Selenium Grid. So let's proceed. Now you can imagine a scenario that there is an automation tester within the organization and his name is Matt. He is having his own machine, a laptop or a physical machine, as in it could be a desktop as such. And he is given an application on Ace Online Shoe Portal. It's a web application, and he has been advised to follow Java tech stack. And there are UI based tests, those are business scenarios, customer facing scenarios, which are very critical. And he has to make sure that the web application is working on different browsers as such, which is Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge. Now, why he has been advised that he has to test in all the browsers is that the customer could use any of the browser. Customer may not specifically look for Google Chrome, but he might open maybe Firefox or a Safari or a Edge just to look at that application. So Matt has to make sure that he tests in all the browsers, and all the functionalities of the application should still be working. It should not break for a specific browser. So it should be independent of the browser, the functionality as such. But he has to make sure that it all the tests are passing for all the browsers as such. Now, this is a typical scenario, generally what happens in an organization. So when Matt, as an automation tester, tries to develop some automation test scenarios for this application, and he has been advised to follow the browsers which has been given by the product owner or a BA. What he faces as a challenge is there are a lot of automation test cases that he might come up with. Okay, so there could be a lot of business scenarios, and he ends up multiplying those scenarios into number of browsers that he has. So it could be that he has one particular automation test case. So that automation test case into 4 is the number of test cases that he has to make sure that he is testing, and is testing on all the browsers. So you can imagine that the test script is getting multiplied into 4 every time if there are 4 browsers that he has to test. Now, in a scenario, Matt will have different stakeholders, and it could be a BA or it could be a product owner. And the BA and the product owner does mention that these are very important business test scenarios. You have to test all of these, and we have to use the company desired tools and stack. Okay, so developer or architect can add this factor in as well. Hey, we have to use this tools of Selenium, which is proven its market leader in automation testing, and the tech stack that you have to follow is a Java tech stack. You have to specifically use this technology as a organization chosen tool and test stack, and you have to test it in all browsers. It has to be cross browser. So there will be a list of browsers that the customer might use, and based on which Matt has to test these scenarios. And the execution test time. Okay, so this is an important parameter. Um, as we can see that the number of test cases are going to increase based on the browsers that Matt has to test, but still we don't have to compromise on the execution time. Okay, they want faster results. They cannot wait whole day, or they cannot wait half a day to get test results. They want faster results so that they can ship the product to customer without bugs or error prone as such. So this is the typical scenario which Matt faces as an automation tester in an organization. Now, looking at Matt's scenario as an automation tester, he is not the only one who is present as an automation tester within the team. He has another teammate whose name is Tracy, and Tracy also has a machine of her own, and she also tries to contribute or help Matt as an automation tester and tries to contribute to the automation testing framework, or at least run those test cases, make sure those are working fine. So both of them have to do can do scripting, can run the execution, but of course they have to put in the factors while developing the test automation framework, that whatever they are scripting, it has setting up that automation framework, it should be scalable. So what it means is that whatever test cases are being written, those are getting tested across the browsers. So if Matt or Tracy are writing one particular test case, it should be scalable in a way that it is the same script is being used for different browsers altogether. They don't have to multiply, or they don't have to put extra effort to make it browser specific test case. So we will be looking at how is it possible to make this scalable using Selenium Grid. Other factor is lesser text execution time, right? So which is an important parameter. Now the project managers, the delivery leads or the delivery managers, what they are interested is a lesser execution time, which has to be reduced each and every time. So faster results is something that is expected out of the automation testers. The third factor is consider the infrastructure limitation. So they don't have a lot of machines to test all the browsers or all the automated test cases. They have to consider while designing this test automation framework. The fourth factor is they don't want to be dependent on installation of different browsers and dependent drivers. So they don't want to install a particular specific version of Google Chrome and then make sure that they have installed the Google Chrome driver. In case of Firefox, they don't want to specifically work on a version of Firefox, and then later on they have to make sure that they install the Gecko driver of a Firefox, which will consume a lot of time, which will really not give the productivity or the output that they really want. So let's proceed to next video where we'll be going into depth of what is Selenium Grid, what is Selenium Grid architecture looks like, and why is Selenium Grid very popular in the testing industry, which will help to solve this kind of use case problems or challenges. So let's proceed. All right, now in this video, what we'll be looking at is how to set up Docker containers for Selenium Grid architecture. Now we looked at this particular Selenium Grid architecture in the previous video, where there was a concept of hub and node client. So hub is the central host and it is connected to different node clients altogether. And what we realized in previous video is if we have to come up with Selenium Grid architecture with Docker, what we have to really do is we have to convert this hub into a Docker container, and simultaneously we will have to convert each of the node clients into Docker container. So all the node clients needs to be Docker container as well, so that we come up with Selenium Grid architecture with Docker. Now in order to achieve this kind of architecture wherein there is a Selenium Grid architecture with Docker, what we really need to have is that we need to convert or create a Docker container of hub in such a way that it is the first container that is created, that is a hub container, and then we have to create Docker containers for node clients. So the first node client will be container 2, the second node client will be container 3, the third node client will be container 4, and the fourth node client will be container 5, and so on. So depends on how many node clients do you really require. You might require to create more containers as such. So this is how we will have to set up the Selenium Grid architecture with Docker. And one thing which is very important to mention is the hub as well as the node clients need to be in the same network. If it is outside of different networks, it will not get interlinked or it cannot get inter attached to each other. Now, in order to create such a network as well as such a architecture wherein there is a Selenium grid, which is first is the hub, which the first container is a hub. Now, for that to get created, we will have to determine different ports. Like, for example, for the hub, we will have to determine a port which is 4445 and different node clients, right? Which is container 2, the first node client. We will have to determine the port which is 4446. Container number 3, which is the second node client, it will have to be port 4447. Fourth container, which is the third node client, it will have to be for port 4448. The fourth node client, which is the fifth container, that will have to be port 4449. And why we are determining is that, so that we understand when we are interlinking these containers with the hub, we have to have the ports defined in such a way that we can put it in the same network. We will go through this when we are running the command, when we are looking at practical end as well. We will try to set it up one by one and show it in the next video. For that to happen, now we will go step by step approach. First step is pull the images of Selenium Hub. So from as we did in previous videos, what we will have to do is we will have to pull the images of Selenium Hub. Then we will have to pull images of Selenium node clients. Please note that the Selenium Hub is a different image and Selenium node clients is a different image. So we will have to pull the image of Selenium Hub first. Then we will have to pull the images of Selenium node clients one by one. We will have to start a network, which is a Docker network of create grid network. So we will have to create a network as a third step. Fourth step, create and run containers and link them. So we will have to create these networks one by one. We will have to create Docker containers one by one, and we will have to link them up. So this will be the fourth step. So in next video, we will be looking at practical approach of all these steps, and then you will be able to understand how we are really able to achieve the Selenium grid with Docker architecture.